Programming Throwdown, episode 103, Working from Home with Adam Bell. Take it away, Jason.
Hey, everybody. So this is a pretty interesting episode. We're actually live on Twitch. And so this is something we tried, Patrick, maybe 5 years ago or something, a really long time ago. I don't know, why did we stop recording to Twitch? I think part of it was we got a lot more engagement on Discord, and the Twitch just couldn't seem to kick off. But since then, especially recently, a lot of folks have been saying, oh, we kind of want to see the podcast on either Twitch or YouTube or one of these platforms. And so we're going to give it a second go. We'll record some episodes on Twitch and we'll see how it goes. It really depends on you, our loyal fans, to let us know if this medium, gets some extra value.
Yeah, I think Twitch has grown a lot. And also, especially these days, which I'm sure we're going to talk about in a few minutes, I think people's appetite for consuming online content has only been going up.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, a lot of people ask us why we use Skype and not Zoom. And I think the answer, correct me if I'm wrong, Patrick, is just that we never tried Zoom. It could be way
we've
better.
been doing this podcast longer than Zoom's been around.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah, that is very true. But you get some inside baseball. We do a Skype call. We record it through Skype, and also Patrick does some recording. And then we kind of mix it all together afterwards. But anyway, so today we have Adam, and we're going to all chat about working from home, which is something we've all been doing a lot of lately. And it's something that Adam personally has been doing for 9 years full time, which is way longer than either of us. And so I'm sure you're gonna have a ton of insights. But yeah, maybe Adam, you could kick it off by just talking about what made you work from home? Was it your decision, or was it something that was circumstantial? And what kind of started that?
Yeah, great question. So in 2011, I live in Peterborough, Ontario, Canada. It's got 85,000 people. It's not the tech hub that you hear about, right? So I had a boss who had left and went to work somewhere else, actually in Waterloo area in Ontario, and he wanted me to come work for him. And he said hey, maybe you could do it remote, because I didn't want to move there. And so, I took a day off work. I drove down there. I did all these interviews, and he said at the beginning kind of oh, so they're going to want you to say you're moving here, but it's all cool, which was a little weird.
Oh, no.
So I went through all the interviews, and then I met with HR last, and she was like, okay, so when are you thinking of moving to Waterloo? And I was like, well, I'm not. I think if you want to say that I'm moving here, then that's fine, but I'm not. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. This job is for here. So it became a whole thing. I drove home thinking I didn't get the job, which seemed like a great job. And then my former manager phoned me up and said, I heard there was some sort of misunderstanding. We're happy to have you work remote. Let's get you an offer. Got me an offer. And he said, now the offer says that you're going to be working in Waterloo, but just ignore that. So I took a huge gamble, and I took that job, and I never went to the office. Well, actually, I went a couple times, but I started working from my small apartment that I lived in with my now wife. And I think within a week, I was I don't think I want to go back to working in an office. I think that maybe, the times we're in right now are a little bit strange. It's not the ideal working from home times, but back then when I tried it, I was this is a really good fit for my for who I am, for my personality, for the way I like to work. And so it's years later, I've been at 3 or 4 different companies, all remote.
So dive into that a bit. What makes your personality or anyone's personality good for working from home, and what would make it bad?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think the thing that is the worst for working remotely isn't really a personality thing, but an experience thing. I work on a team that's distributed right now. I think it's really hard if you don't have experience working in an office place. Maybe there's a way to do that, but I think that's the hardest thing, right? If you just finished school or something, you just finished university or grad school, and you're I'm starting a new job, and it's just you at home on your couch. I don't know how you're going to learn what a day's work looks like what the expectations are, when you should ask for help. So that's the biggest area that I don't think we've figured out how to work from home. The other thing I would say is just Some people like to be really social. I'm probably maybe a bit less social than some. Like I think I can get by, with a lower level of like water cooler chat. I mean,
Right.
some
Yeah.
people. I mean, I don't think some people might not realize that that's who they are until, like our present situation where they're like, I'm really struggling without the needed social contact. Also, like I had a significant other that I lived with at home. I think if you lived by yourself and work was your main like social outlet, I think that could be a struggle, right?
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it totally makes sense. I mean, it totally resonates with me. I think along the same lines. I wonder, like people who are starting now, you have to work from home. So you graduated from college back in probably, I guess now maybe you graduated from college 2 weeks ago or something, and you got your first job, and you're working remote, right? And I think it's a huge challenge. And so another thing you said that resonated with me is this idea like we haven't really got it right. I totally agree with that. I was thinking about how there's when you're sitting around the same desks, like in some bullpen environment, you can just run over and talk to somebody, or you can ask a question, right? I don't think you can completely remove your privacy when you're at home. You can't just have a camera staring at you 24/7. It's super awkward, right? But maybe, one thing that might be better than what we have now is maybe like a set of hours, like office hours type thing.
Yeah.
Where you say, look, from 1 to 2, my camera is always on, and so is yours. And so there's this grid maybe of all of our faces for that hour, and then it turns off, something like that. Yeah, but that's probably one of probably 1,000 ideas we could come up with brainstorming here today on how to make it better. I mean, I think there's huge amounts of progress that needs to be made.
Yeah, I think you could also just like metaphorically like try to treat it like that person is there, right? Like if you guys are on the same time zone and you guys used to work next to each other, and you're on Slack or whatever, like a place where I see like working from home go badly is like people who might hash something out for 20 minutes in the office will spend 3 hours like talking about it on Slack. Like just like jump on a call. Like I know it seems like they're not there, but just pretend they are and talk it out.
Yeah, what about like I feel like I get notification overload now that I'm working from home. And I mean similar to what you were just saying where instead of just tapping someone on the shoulder, you send them a message and then it's this n squared problem, right? Yeah, how do you deal with notification overload?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard. I think the same kind of like office hours kind of concept could work. I know.
Yeah.
Like I talked to somebody at my work who kind of their like role is like half, like doing a lot of work and half just like kind of meeting with people, kind of half manager, half individual contributor. And they said like they actually split their day literally in half and say like this time, there's no notifications, there's no whatever. Here's my, my deep thinking time, and then here's where I'm whatever telling this person to talk to this person or chatting. Yeah. Another thing is like so my so my wife works right now. She's on a bit of a different schedule because of the times we're in. But like for the 9 years that I've been at home, like she has like a fairly standard 9 to 5 job. So she like we get up at the same time. When she leaves, that's kind of like I'm in my work zone, right? And when she comes home, it's kind of the end of my work day. So I mean, I didn't come up with this strategy. That's just kind of how my life works. But I think that it's really important if you're working from home to have some sort of bookends, because like otherwise like people think that the danger is like people at home aren't working. But I think the real danger is just that like work becomes pervasive in your entire life and you can't turn it off.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I think that, and also like there's people don't know how much you're working. So like we're in a research team, and so there's a lot of folks doing research on things that ultimately don't pan out. And so when you're sitting right next to somebody, you see them, sweating, and then they're writing on the expo marker board, and they erase it with their hand, and then they rub the sweat off their head, and now they have like a rainbow on their forehead, and they're just crazy, like stressed out. And you say, okay, well, at least I know for a fact that this person is putting in a lot of effort. And then maybe nothing comes of that, which is really a shame. But like at least you kind of have an idea. Versus now, and it works the other way too. Sometimes you get this eureka moment, and you do things that you didn't even have to put a lot of effort into, and so that becomes harder to sort of internalize. when you're not around the person.
Yeah, totally. And I don't know, like you have to have a certain amount of buy-in from, I guess, the organization and the people you work with, I guess, right? I don't work in a research type environment, but I assume that if you do, and if you're going to be not in an office, then there needs to be some sort of understanding, that this is how it is, right? Otherwise, if you have to dedicate your hard thinking time to making sure you're, demonstrating some sort of output so that you can be measured, I don't think that's going to help anything.
Yeah, totally. So Patrick, what's your experience been like? So Patrick works at a place where almost nobody ever worked from home. So like at my job, we worked from home on Wednesdays, way before a virus hit. And so, but Patrick, like working from home is kind of anathema to your company. And so like, what has it been like? It must be a huge change.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is an interesting question for teams that are like mine. And I think you guys have been sort of alluding to a lot of the same things we're all going through. But companies that didn't have extensive work from home experience before, it's a lot harder of a transition. I actually think we've adapted pretty quickly, but most of the team has been stable, been working together for a while. So they already kind of know what everyone's doing without having to talk about it as much. Yeah. Onboarding new people has been slightly more challenging, adjusting to them. But we've done the things like we were talking about, like just have an hour every day or a little longer and just be on a chat and shoot the breeze or talk about specifics, and people can sign off if they want. But new people tend to not have as much work to do. So they have a little more time to be able to hang out. And it's important, I think, to be able to get them that time, even if it doesn't seem directly beneficial to having them churn out lines of code. I think it's important to have people get adjusted pretty quickly. And so that's how we've been tackling it. It's actually been working out, I think, better than if you had asked me at the start, how is this going to go? I would have predicted it going worse. And I think that's a realization a lot of people are coming to, is that is not as bad as they thought it would be for the people who said maybe they didn't want to work from home or it wasn't important to them before. They're realizing, oh, actually, there's kind of a lot of advantages to this. But then, yeah, a lot of people are saying, yeah, I don't really have a good home setup for this. Like, I don't have a home office. I have too many other people in this space. And so for those people, of course, like it's more of a struggle. And so looking forward, I think the interesting thing is how people may choose to adjust if they believe there's a higher probability of this happening. So people may select where they live or not live, or what kind of apartment they get or don't get, or house they buy or don't buy, thinking that work from home may happen more often, or maybe we may be forced into work from home, which, what do you call it? I guess that's a recency bias. Like, it's never happened before, but it happened now. So it's more likely to happen in the future. But I don't actually know if that's, but I think a lot of people will treat it that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. I think, one thing is this idea of working anywhere. I think that is going to be like huge disruption to the entire industry. And I don't mean disruption in a bad way, like disrupting your service or something, but I think it's going to radically change the entire industry. Ultimately, I think for the better. But I think, if you think about the recruiting funnel, I mean, it's going to have to completely change, right? I mean, it used to be that you had this locality bias. So, we want people who work in this city. And so the amount of people who will relocate to that city is small. And so your process, your funnel doesn't ever get too big that you can't do anything, to manage it. And furthermore, like, you could be really aggressive in how you do your funnel, because you can only grow so big as a company so quickly, right? But now, if we really go to this totally distributed model, then we have to figure out ways to field resumes from people all over the world for jobs all over the world, and how to pay people in a competitive way around the world. I mean, all of that stuff is going to have to get figured out in the next 6 months.
I think there's like the quote about the future is here, it's just unevenly distributed. It's like there's been there's like places have been doing this, right? It's not been the norm, right? Like, I think if you look at a lot of the places that have been hiring and been distributed, like sometimes it's because they have like a certain particular niche where it's like, if you need, very specific type of people, like maybe they're not all in one area, right? So you're like, hey, I need the best people in the world, and there's like two of them in London, England, and one is in Idaho, and then so you just kind of adapt to that. Another interesting thing that Patrick said is like about like the type of environments you want to have, like for your work life, right? I think like when I started working from home, like I had an apartment, it was a 2-bedroom apartment. I took like, I mean, people didn't have this opportunity this time. Like I took off some time between work. I got all the crap out of my second bedroom. You know, like I set up a specific office and I was like, this desk is my work desk. And I think that in a world where more people are working like this, apartments probably in urban areas have some disadvantages compared to getting a large house where you could have some extra space, at least in terms of work. Like there's certain benefits in other areas, but I think it does change some of the preferences people would have.
So
How does, go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, I have this, I don't know, you call it like a pet theory about the like thing, but I'll tell it here in front of a giant crowd of people. It'll be great. Which is I was saying that the way I was thinking about it, which resonated with me, I guess I'm biased, is when people live in like very urban environments, they have smaller houses, but they're willing to pay more because the entertainment living portions are conducted outside of their house. Like they don't need a big kitchen because they eat out at nice restaurants. So if you live in New York City, Manhattan, right? Like that's uber expensive, small apartment, but there's so much to do just within walking distance. You have a house that's a hybrid between inside your apartment and like the local whatever shop that you like to eat at down the street, and the bodega on the corner is your pantry. And, you know, you have all of these things very near to you. You go to all sorts of some of the world's best entertainment rather than just sitting at home and watching TV on a relatively small TV because you have no space. And so you're willing to pay more because you're not outsourcing is the right word, but you're utilizing space outside of your apartment as your living space, the park, the, you know, entertainment venues. Yep. Versus if you live in the suburbs, you need a bigger house because that entertainment stuff moves inside of your domicile. So you need to entertain you and your family. And if you have children or pets, you need to do that sort of within your house because you don't want to get in your car and drive everywhere all the time. And so when you see these lockdowns that are happening where the entertainment spaces outside of your house are being denied access to you, it's like someone coming in and like, you know, biohazard taping off part of your house and telling you you're no longer allowed to use this. And then at some point you're going to go like, well, this is a scam. This is a ripoff. Like, I don't want to pay these prices when I can't access what I was considering part of my living and the reason why I was paying for this. Like, why am I still here? Why am I paying this? And if you drop prices low enough, I guess the market demand will say like some people will still choose that. But a bunch of other people are going to go either the price needs to get lower or I'm going to leave because I'm being denied access to part of like what I was considering my living space. And especially for things like work from home, that gets even harder because you lived in an area where maybe you still had to commute or whatever, but you had the place where you worked was your office. And now you can't go to that office and you have no alternative because you don't have spare space in your place of residence. And for those people, I think they develop a very acute like reaction to this where it's like they need an immediate fix. Because like working from sitting on the edge of your bed is only going to happen for a few hours before you realize it's not sustainable.
Yeah, there must be like a middle ground, right? Where like everybody moves to like the medium size. Like everybody lives in Boulder or St. Louis and has a co-working place, right? Like some middle ground where you're like, I have more space and I can share some urban amenities. And I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, a number of people where I work have brought up this idea that they want to spend 6 months of the year in, Nebraska, and then the other 6 months, in Manhattan, where the job is like, and that raises a bunch of interesting questions. Like, so right now you could say, well, okay, we'll pay you, let's say, market rate for Nebraska, whatever a software engineer makes in Nebraska when you're in Nebraska. But then if you think about it this gets back to something we talked about a while ago about like, what is something actually worth and how you figure that out. Also, what this engineer is actually worth to the company actually goes up because they're using less physical space and getting the same amount of work done. But you're going to end up paying them less if you take the market price attitude, right? And so there ends up being this sort of disconnect between these two ways of measuring what something is worth, right? I think this whole, there's also, I guess it all kind of ties together. Like if on the recruiting side, we're now able to find a bunch of super talented folks in Nebraska, then that really puts a lot of downward pressure on people who are, in the cities, and as Patrick said, like need a lot of these extra amenities to have the same quality of life, right? Versus like in Nebraska, those are capital expenses, I guess. And yeah, I think that whole thing is interesting. I think I did see a lot of people getting back to like the furniture and sort of being comfortable working from home. I did see a lot of people buying. I actually also bought one like these mechanical desks that go up and down for your house, and that was something I used a lot of at work. And I thought that it would be an insane amount of money, but it's actually they've come down in price. You can get one at pretty reasonable amount, and so far I think that's been the biggest improvement in working from home for me, has been getting a desk where I could stand up.
Yeah, I also have a standing desk. Yeah, I bought it years ago, and I haven't regretted it. Although I spend lots of time sitting at it.
Yeah, I think for podcasts, it's probably good to be sitting.
I think the market dynamics thing is interesting. Like, I think I saw something online that said that it like the market for software developers is going to get even more divided, right? I mean, this was a theory because like if I live in Nebraska. And you're trying to pay me local Nebraska wages, but I actually have a counteroffer from some other like Bay Area company, you're just going to pay me the Bay Area rate, right? But if I don't, then I'll get the Nebraska wage. And as this slowly fans out, I think it will just mean that developers that are in demand get like a very high bracket, and developers that aren't are in a very low. Like it should stretch things out.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I think that especially with what you said earlier, if you have a niche skill, and if the only way you could, let's say, build that craft is to work at one of these three companies, then that's your pool of talent. And so, expanding to the whole world doesn't really matter because the whole world hasn't been exposed to those three companies that have this embedded talent or whatever it is, right? And so, yeah, I think those people could probably do well. I think the people who are more generalist, I think that might be a place where there'll be some kind of compression. There's actually a question from the audience, which I thought was really, really useful. We'll jump to some of the audience questions. So Cheesy Taco Deluxe asks, what is it like onboarding new team members and going through the interview process, now that we're all remote? Who wants to take a crack at that first?
I can. So yeah, we have an interview process. We use Zoom rather than Skype that we're in right now, but it tends to involve just some Zoom calls, and so we'll do like CoderPad or something like that, where we'll have somebody work through a problem, kind of talking it out the same as you might for a whiteboard, and we have like just a couple phases of that. Yeah, and then somebody gets mailed out a laptop, and they start. When I started at my current job, on my first day of work, I was here. It's kind of a weird experience to start a job and not be there, right? You're like, okay, I guess I work someplace new, but my laptop didn't arrive, and so I wasn't really sure what to do, and I contacted the IT, and they're like, they had sent it like to like the general vicinity of where I live, but not my exact house, which isn't.
Oh, that's pretty bizarre.
Yeah, like that. I don't know. It's like they transposed some numbers in the street or something.
Oh, interesting.
I got the laptop eventually, but the first day I was like, I'm here, and they're like, all right, well, you can't really do anything. So, but I mean, I think.
Wait, why not? You didn't have any access or something, or?
Yeah.
Oh, because I see.
Yeah, I needed the work computer. At that time, everything was like behind a VPN. Now we use Okta, which is pretty nice.
Oh yeah, right.
But yeah, I mean, I think we just have to adapt, right? I think that obviously right now it's not the case, but in a post-COVID world, if people are still working remotely, I think like getting together is still important. Like, I worked on teams where we're kind of all over the place, but like once a quarter we get together, ostensibly for planning, but really like just to hang out and like know each other as people who are three-dimensional.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's very similar. We have, a set of I think we actually use this product called BlueJeans, which is kind of like a Zoom type thing for enterprise. But basically, it's a set of these, video chats, and then we also use CoderPad. And then, here's a kind of an interesting backstory behind CoderPad is CoderPad was actually started by somebody who worked at our company, and they ended up, because we were like the first customer, I worked for this gigantic company, and we spent something like $10,000 for a lifetime, like, company-wide license for CoderPad. And we've probably put, like, 200,000 hours into it or something. Yeah, I'm sure they're not making any money off us, but yeah, we also use CoderPad pretty heavily, mail out the offer, mail out the laptop. And then we built like a set of onboarding docs that have like, here's the social groups you should join, here's some videos from some of the leaders just talking about the company and talking about the team and everything. And that seemed to work pretty well. And similar to what you were saying, we also have, well, actually, we don't have yet an in-person thing because we all started working from home with COVID, so we haven't had the chance to do that yet. But we do have, every Tuesday we have a social hour, and it's not mandatory. It's kind of this weird thing, right, where we really want everyone to be there, but if as soon as we enforce it, it's not a social thing anymore. It becomes this, it becomes work again. So people come and go. We have a decent percentage of people there. And we just chat or we'll play a game. We actually played this game called Zombs Royale yesterday, which was this web game where you, it's similar to like PUBG or Fortnite or one of these games, but just something where you can kind of bond as a team. It's really good to kind of force that time because it would be emergent otherwise. Like we'll just say, hey, do you want to just go for a walk? But now, that you can't do that. So you really have to kind of force it. Like you have to say like, okay, 2 to 3 p.m. guys, let's go do something cool. And it seems weird. I mean, as a person who sort of set up the meeting, it felt weird to make a meeting to play video games. It feels like, well, why are they paying us for this? But I think that, you need it to sort of have a healthy team, have a healthy environment.
I think would be the same as making things explicit, which were just implicit or emergent before. Like you were saying, you would naturally hang out with people and shoot the breeze, which goes down kind of a lot. So we've done something similar. Like we've played board games online a few times, just like 1 hour on Friday, the same thing, kind of middle end of the day, just like, hey, everyone get on and do this. And it also does feel weird, but I'm the same thing. I don't feel bad about it because I feel that it's important for the team to be oriented towards each other in sort of the way that would happen much more fluidly. What would you in 3D space? Maybe if we all had VR goggles, it would be a different story. But, like thinking about people as more than just their comments on a code review or their status update is really important to being able to put yourself in their shoes and have that kind of emotional intelligence that sometimes people write about. I think you need to kind of know another person, and you don't get that if you strictly just interact, or at least in my opinion, I find it difficult to just know that from the strict business interaction that tends to be the default engagement model with this remote stuff.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah. You made me think of a couple other things. So we have like you were saying, we have, join this channel. We also have like during the first week, like we'll fill up kind of like half of your first couple days with just like meetings that are just like, you should just say hi to this person and say hi to this person. And then we also have a buddy program that somebody at my work set up, which is like they take anybody who's new gets just like paired with somebody who volunteers, who's like from a different part of the company. And they just meet like casually on an ongoing basis. Because sometimes like a problem that's not been solved by all this stuff is like silos. Like if you develop social structures with your team, like you do end up kind of not like, you're not going to run into people in the kitchenette or something who are on a different team. So that's our attempt at that. But I think that's a hard problem.
Yeah, totally. I've seen, things like, so, when we were in the office, we had something called Chow Roulette, where it would randomly pick 2 people who had signed up to this Chow Roulette and make them have a one-on-one lunch together. And so there were different groups. There was a Chow Roulette for engineers. There was one for, salespeople. Then there was a general one if you just wanted to get matched up with anybody. And something like that, I think, could easily translate to online. In fact, it could probably be better online. Is probably more awkward in person. Because one person has to walk really far to get to the other person where they're eating, right? Yeah, and the thing you mentioned, I went to I had a virtual conference where they had this interesting button. You'd click this button, and it was as if you ran into somebody in the hallway, like in between two conference rooms. So it's like when one talk ended, there's about a 15-minute break, and during that break, you could click the button, and then if someone else clicked the button, you would run into each other, and it would just basically be like a one-on-one chat. And then after a minute or so, you would hang up and you could try it again. I didn't try it, but things like this, I think, are starting to get at that kind of just emergent conversation that happens in real life.
It seems hard because it seems like forced, where like a lot of this stuff in person happens very naturally. But there is a Slack bot. I don't know if you guys use Slack, but called like Coffee. I think it's called like Coffee Time. And it's like people join this channel and then randomly, I think once a week, it like the bot will like ping you and somebody else and say like, you guys should meet and have coffee.
Cool.
It's sort of it's like the minimum viable product version of your chat roulette or whatever.
Yeah, right. Cool. Someone asked, they said basically, actually, let me get the person's name. So this is Gaithan on Twitter. Gaithan said, basically they work from home and that's sort of their leisure space. So it could be playing video games, watching TV. And so since they do both in the same space, when they're having sort of a bad day at work, they also don't want to have fun anymore because it's kind of like tainted, right? And so, one way to solve that is, if you have a big enough place, then you could just subdivide, right? But assuming that for folks who are, as Patrick said, kind of in the apartment setting, and they can only have one place to do work and to have fun, what are some tips we could give them to make that a little easier?
So I worked with somebody before who like went for a walk like before they started their day, and then after, like they literally commuted like back to their house.
Oh, that's a good idea. I love that idea.
Maybe it can mentally, like change the scenery and have you reset. You got to find some way to kind of like, to keep things, like to block things out, I guess. But that's the best one I've heard.
Yeah, just bootstrapping off that. When I have one-on-one meetings, I'll actually take a lot of those. I'll actually walk for a lot of those. So if I'm having a one-on-one meeting that's pretty casual with somebody that I meet with every week, where I don't really expect them to take a lot of notes or something, I'll keep my phone in my pocket. I'll have the headphones on, and I'll just go for a walk around the neighborhood. And after a few weeks of that, I start just disliking all of my neighbors. So. No, but I think anytime you can get some exercise and kind of enjoy nature and stuff, I think that is one really good way to sort of recreate that. Because I mean, when I did have these same meetings in person, that is what we did. We would go for a walk, sometimes even walk outside for a bit. And so now it's even easier to do stuff like that.
This is not my situation, so just making up ideas. But I wonder too if you took it extreme. So not only if you sort of walked to your house to start your work and then walked at the end of the day, but you could kind of go half a step further and they have those hue light bulbs, that change color temperature. So like I notice I have my window open at my house, so my room is lit sort of naturally. But when I'm at work, it's like I can't even see a window. Like it's just all harsh artificial lighting. And that sounds kind of goofy. But if you even like changed more of your space to like change scenes, and if you had like a very cool blue while you were working and then changed it to a warmer blue sort of at the end of the day, I mean, I don't know, I've not tried that, but it's just sort of adding to you may be in the same space, but if you move your desk a foot to the right and change the color, and you can kind of convince yourself that this is completely different. And I think little tricks
it's psychological. It's like deep psychological.
Yeah, exactly.
So totally works. I think you just caused Amazon to run out of stock of hue light bulbs.
I think it's a great idea. Yeah, when I first worked at home in my apartment and I had like a computer and a desk that I used for like casual stuff like gaming or whatever. And I got an identical desk and I put them like on opposite walls. And I just like I didn't have this exact same problem, but I knew like if I was facing one way, that was like work, and if I was facing the other way, it was. I mean, I don't do anything that severe, but I guess you got to find how to separate things yourself.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Yeah, I think one thing that's been really challenging is actually, yeah, it'd be great to get your take on this, Adam. So for myself and probably Patrick, like we were basically forced to work from home because of COVID, and so what that meant is day one of working from home was also day one of schools shutting down, daycare shutting down, and all of our kids like being our responsibility. And so it's just like an enormous shock. And so I honestly, I don't know about Patrick, but I don't really, I don't count the Wednesday thing that I mentioned earlier because it's one day a week. So you kind of plan everything else around it. But I honestly don't really know what it's like to work from home full time without like all of these other, externalities, right? And so one way that maybe we could sort of like reverse engineer this is for you to talk a little bit about, what was it like pre versus post COVID? Because you've been working from home the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm trying to think. So I've found like I could tell you like just at a gut like psychological level that like I feel more like closer to burnout lately with the whole COVID situation, even though like not a lot of my work life has changed, right? Like I worked here where you see me now, a year ago, and I still do now, but now I do feel a bit boxed in, so I think, it's because it's not just that I'm here for work, it's that I'm here for everything, right? And maybe that goes to that person's question about kind of feeling kind of stuck in their bad day. So I think that these circumstances are not the ideal work from home circumstances. I don't have any specifics though.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I noticed as well is and we talked about this in the past episode with Max is I feel this like it's very kind of like this bipolar, like this up, like very much like ups and downs. And I think it's related to the fact that and this gets to what the person was asking too. And the question is that you're in the same room for kind of everything. And so it just tends to, and I think getting to what you were saying too, Adam, is like, I feel like I'm kind of always plugged in because I'm always, 10 feet away from work. And so if someone sends me a work email, I'm just much more likely to reply at the dinner table versus before, there's kind of that mental barrier. And now I think with the COVID situation, the reality is like, I at least personally like, and probably feel you might feel the same way, Patrick, is like I can't give it 100% when there are so many people, so much social infrastructure that I depend on that isn't there right now. And so when you combine not like a clear barrier between work and home with the fact that like you can't contribute as much as you did when everything else was open, I think it gives you kind of this ups and downs where you feel like, oh, I'm not doing enough. And then after you work for a day, you feel really accomplished, and then it kind of goes back,
Yeah. I like, so on my team, like we were all kind of distributed, but some people did work in an office, but many people didn't, like before COVID. Now everybody's at home. The people who have had the most challenge would be the people who have kids who are now home all the time. Like, they, like maybe they worked from home before, but they had daycare and now they have their kid there. It seems like everybody's adapted. But yeah, maybe it's just slowly wearing them down. I don't know. Somebody told me that they had gotten these like children's, like sand timers, like 3 different ones, like one that was like an hour and one that was 30 minutes, one that was 15 minutes. And then when they're in a meeting, they like put it on their desk and turn it. And then they taught their kid that like, when it runs out of sand, that's when you can talk to me.
Nice.
So, I mean, I guess there's a certain amount of training that people are doing about how working from home works. I think even if you didn't have these current circumstances and you worked from home, and it's summertime and your kids are around, like there is a certain type of work that needs to be done probably to establish barriers, like right now I'm busy and things like that. I don't have any children. I just have cats and I can just close the door. So.
Nice. Oh, Patrick, you went on mute.
Oh, can you hear me?
Oh, now
Okay.
we can hear you.
Yeah, I was like, can you just not shut the door? No, I'm just kidding. Don't.
Yeah, I got two banging at the door right now, but it's totally fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. I guess that goes to, everyone tries to spiral in projecting what the future will look like, but I think people taking what it's like right now or in the summertime versus the fall and projecting it out isn't necessarily the right model, because having your kids at home, or I mean, it's even worse than that, right? During the school year, which was the case with us, is like not only were the kids home, but they needed to do their school, and it's like,
Yeah, right.
wait a minute, like I'm supposed to be doing your school and my work, and thankfully, like I think I'm very lucky and privileged, and probably might apply to you guys as well. But like my work is very understanding and just saying like, hey, like we know this is a thing. Like we're lowering sort of expectations a little. Like try the best you can, basically. And I feel like I was still able to do and treat that responsibly. But yeah, I mean, I think people taking learnings from now and projecting them forward is not. We're not able to sort of make it as sustainable as you might otherwise if there wasn't a global pandemic, And it's more so even than that. Like people's vacations got canceled, people's spring breaks got canceled. Summer hasn't been canceled, but normally people would be looking forward to traveling and planning that traveling and family coming to visit, and like none of that is going on, or a lot less of it is going on. And so the burnout thing I think is super risky for people. Like I think you have to make sure to monitor yourself, which I think people are of differing degrees of ability to tell like how their personal state is and just being introspective about that. But I mean, I think it's very probable that if you this is not going to be fixed by August, September, October. So you're going to talk about March to October. That's like 7 months. And if you've not gone on vacation or taken a staycation or done something, you normally would have taken a day, a couple days, a week of vacation.
Is so true. Yeah.
And I think people are going to get a work fatigue and frustration and associate it to something that might be slightly misdirected.
Yeah, that is such a good point, right? Like, I remember there was a time when there was sort of a crunch time at work, and we didn't plan a vacation. And not really realizing that I was burnt out because we just had kind of regular vacations. At the time, my wife was actually working for a cruise line, and so they would have deals for the employees at a certain cadence, and so we always kind of just had basically the vacations planned for us, and so it wasn't kind of obvious that like I hadn't taken a vacation in almost a year, and I'm totally burnt out. And so, yeah, I think it's such a good point. Like, no one really wants to take a vacation during a pandemic, because what do? You just walk around your neighborhood, or there's very few things that are open. But then on the flip side, yeah, a lot of people will probably get burnt out and maybe not even know why.
Yeah, I think take a staycation, right? Like take some time off and I don't know, put your computers in somewhere else and read a book or something, and just like get out of the house every day, if you can. There's a book about working remotely from DHH, the Rails guy, and I remember very little of the book except that he said that you should judge yourself on whether like it seemed like you put in a good day of work, like that you shouldn't really keep track of like how much hours you did or this or that. If you have experience like in the world and like, hey, I solved some things today. This was a good day's work. Like, that's good enough. Like, don't beat yourself up. Maybe you need to even turn that down even more, right? Like, if you have kids at home or other constraints, like maybe, if you got close to a good day's work, like pat yourself on the back. Don't beat yourself up and be hard on yourself.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Someone asked, and I think we covered this, but Rubik's Shoe, which I don't know if that's intentionally a pun on Rubik's Cube or if that's just, the first thing that came to mind, but either way, that's an awesome name, Rubik's Shoe. Basically asking, what prevents our employers from, what prevents wages from a race to the bottom, right? And I think, we covered that. I do think that there will probably be some kind of wage depression. But again, a lot of jobs are really niche, and this actually gets to another kind of semi-rant, which is everyone is software engineer, but there's so many disciplines in there, and so many different specialities. We talked to Guillermo Ranch, right, and he was talking about about what was it called? Next.js, I think. But basically, it was a framework built on top of React, and yeah, I think pretty sure it's Next.js. You could fact check me on that, but and just extraordinary levels of depth and understanding and knowing the history and why things worked the way they did and what that genesis is like. So I think whether you're doing front end, whether you're doing app development, back end development, whether you're doing AI stuff, whether you're doing embedded, you're always falling into some type of craft that you're becoming an expert in. And so, yeah, I don't really expect this sort of like wage oppression to be as severe as people are saying. I think that it'll be a gradual thing. I think that, I think for a lot of people, the cost of living will go down significantly. And so that will help. And I look at it in a positive way. Like I think we could sort of like energize, people all over the world. Where there's a lot of folks who are anchored to a place, either because their family is there. There's so many different reasons, right? And so we can engage, all of these folks. And so I think that there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah, and I don't know what you guys probably have a better, more accurate take on it, but I expect some places that are embracing the remote workforce right now will fail at it. Like I think it's not a given that it's going to work out for every place. I think it's probably harder than it's.
Yep. So what do you think is going to cause people to fail?
So if things open back up and we allow people to work wherever, but everybody important is in this building, in this particular place, I'm not really sure like that's going to be successful. I think there's a failure mode for like remote where like you have a team except one guy, he's somewhere else. And then like he's not really like a true like member of the team to a certain extent out of nobody's fault, but just so I think like it's really just a culture change. I think that like if everybody in the company is working distributed and kind of communicating in ways that are async and you don't have to be right there, I think it can really work great. But if you're kind of stuck with your traditional structures and everybody's in a certain place, it's not really going to be that successful.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm wondering if like software, development communication is an area of opportunity. Like imagine like a software contract type of thing, saying, look, I'm going to build this kind of system. I guess you could call that documentation or documenting before you write the code, right? But maybe like we somehow make that more frictionless. I'm guilty of it. I'm definitely documenting as I'm writing the code. But I think if you're going to have a system like this where you're going to build something and someone else is going to use it, unless you can't just move sequentially, you have to be able to work in parallel. And so right now it's mostly just Google Docs. So we'll write a Google Doc just with some ideas, we'll send it out, people will give us feedback. But maybe something more formal where you could, I guess if you're just talking about C++, you could write the header files and doxygen them, and then people will kind of know what to expect. But just some way for engineers to communicate like more fluidly, because I think that is the number one criticism of remote work is people say, look, I have this backend, I have this app, I'm making, the next TikTok, and so it needs to be out tomorrow because TikTok was just banned in India yesterday, and so my app needs to come out tomorrow. And so, it only works if the whole team is right there, and the app developer can look over the backend developer's shoulder and see the function call, right?
Yeah, I think like these are just good engineering practices that might get pushed by people being more distributed, right? Like oftentimes, like all that matters about your design is like the API, like the surface it presents. Maybe that's an extreme take, right? But thinking about those APIs and agreeing on them, like if two teams have to communicate about something, like let's agree on what this API is, and like I don't really care about the rest. So if it's teams, I think just be explicit about your APIs, like you said, header files or whatever. Like we've had success with like GraphQL because GraphQL has like a schema So you're kind of communicating like, hey, everything looks like this, and it's a bit flexible, so they can kind of make some different requests. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
But like
I think you're right. I think it will force engineers to do a good job. I mean, which is, not a bad thing. I know that a lot of our code is just in the company, a lot of our code is not documented very well. And I think it's almost perfectly correlated between things which were done quickly by teams that all sat next to each other and things that are not documented well, right? Because you just can't afford to do that if you're distributed. So even in cases where before we were really had remote work, we still obviously had multiple offices, and so things that were done jointly across multiple offices just tended to be better quality, but also slower. And so maybe this idea that it's almost like the 10x engineer myth. Like maybe now we have the project done in a week myth, where the downsides of that, now we just added another downside, which is that it doesn't support remote work, right? But the downsides of that are so extreme that we'll have to just accept that let's just make this 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and actually have good quality on version 1.
Yeah, I feel like within a team, like you should be able to talk it out, like even if you're remote. So yeah, I don't know, like the place that I've seen people working remotely fail is like, yeah, if somebody just goes off and like builds something and then they're like, here it is, and then other people are like, that's not my expectations. I mean, that's probably more likely to happen with working remotely, but it doesn't have to, right? Like you can just talk things out. It doesn't have to be extensive documentation. Like I've like sometimes before building something just in the Slack channel been like, okay, so I have this ticket to do this thing. Here's what I'm thinking. And then people will provide me feedback. And like I learned this because of the reverse scenario where like I put up a PR and then people like it just gets torn to shreds, right? So I'm like, okay, before I start building this, let's talk about the approach.
Yep.
So, I mean, people can still talk even if we're not all in the same room.
Yeah, totally true. Yeah, I mean, I think, if you look at organizations that do this well, or at least maybe organizations that do this at all, I think sales is consistently, almost every medium to large size company has a distributed sales team. And, I think that there's huge advantages to that. I think that depending on the product, but almost every product, even from an engineering standpoint, could benefit from a hyper local view or lens through which to look at that product. Similar to how the sales team in Dubai and the sales team in Arkansas probably don't operate exactly the same way, and so there's a robustness and a health that makes the system more healthy, right? So I think from an engineering standpoint, some type of franchise type model could be really powerful. But actually, to Patrick, a place we used to work a long time ago, I don't know if your team had this, but we actually had some QA folks who were in another part of the US, and they would basically run our unit tests, like do code coverage, look for kind of problems like errors in the development. But actually, they were totally disconnected from the core engineering team. So basically, we would get random emails from these folks saying, hey, we found some issue, or hey, you might want to put some more tests here. But they were kind of like this separate, disjoint org. And I thought, and in hindsight, it's kind of like a powerful model because it's totally scalable. I don't know did you have that on any of the teams you were on or no?
No, I didn't have that. But I can see how you're saying it's powerful. But I mean, it does increase overhead. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a give and take between separating parts of your team and gaining an advantage of sort of modularity and a defined interface, and then gaining the bonus of like more rapid iteration between two teams that don't have a hard boundary like that. And I think that's just like a classic problem that people have to kind of move back and forth on.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, it sounds like my initial thoughts is I would want the people like closer to me, right? Like I would want them working more closely than being totally separated. But I think it's totally possible. Like, I don't know. I think you can still have tight, small teams, when you're working remote. I think it's doable. I think it's the inter-team stuff I think might be more complex.
Yeah, I think, I think you're totally right. I think it's kind of a weird way to sort of divide up the work. Like say, okay, you're responsible for tests, you're responsible for new development. It's kind of bonkers. But yeah, I guess the questions are yeah, how do we reduce the friction between teams, especially across time zones? So if you have, let's say, the database layer being developed in the East Coast or even in London or something, and then the application layer being developed, on the West Coast, I think that's where things become really difficult.
Yeah, so like I think that time zones are different than working remotely, and I think they're like the advanced skill, right? Like just
Yeah.
if you're gonna have a team and you're gonna be all over the place, like keep it in a couple time zones, right? Like I mean somebody said like have at least 4 hours of overlap, but maybe have even more than that, right? And there used to be like this model, I haven't heard about it in years, but people used to talk about like this like follow the globe software development model where like somebody would work on something and then they'd hand it off to somebody like 8 hours away who'd like work on it, and like I cannot foresee how that would actually work, right? Like just have a team and just pretend, even though you're all in each other's homes, that you work together, closely, and talk on Slack and get on video, and that's my advice.
Yep. Yeah, we have a team in New York that we work with very closely, and there have been times when over the past few years when it's just like it needs rapid iteration, and it just feels like nothing is getting done because we'll suggest something, a day later it'll come back to us in a different format, and then we just play this really long like a mail-in chess or something, right? And so finally, we just flew over there and spent a couple of weeks there and hashed it out. And so, yeah, I think maybe another piece of advice is under normal circumstances, non-COVID, if you're going to be working remote, you should kind of expect, or maybe you should not expect, but it's the other way around. Like you should encourage yourself to actually fly around and visit some people in real life. I mean, I think there's times when that is the answer. And so I think that's beyond just the social part and doing the quarterly or annually get together. You should expect that like when you see this sort of trend of this sort of like impersonal, like, oh, I'll get back to you tomorrow, and then you should ping-ponging like this, to just say, okay, I'm gonna fly over there and let's like sit together for a week, and and hopefully the place you're flying to has an office, or there's some place you could both meet, or something like that. You're not flying to the other person's home with your luggage. But I think that part is really important.
Yeah, the place where I've seen things, or a way that I've seen things go badly is with these long iteration loops, and like like somebody who's like I'm working on two separate things because like I put together work on the one, and then I have to get this other team to review it. And then while I'm waiting 2 days for that, I work on this other thing, and then like weeks go by where this person's just like slowly pushing forward two things, and it's just like just talk to the people. Like sometimes you can't wait. I don't know, if you have to do a whole bunch of work in parallel to cover like really large lags, like you're probably just covering up a huge problem.
Yep. And you get a kind of feel for like the cadence for something, like you get a feel for like how the excitement curve, I guess, of whatever it is you're working on. And so if you're working on something that you feel like you need to jump on it quickly, then yeah, that's another reason to just let the folks know and say, look, like, well, let's set up a video chat, or let's set up a work chat or something where we have like more immediate, more loud as in more notifications and all of that, like more loud communication, so that we can just get this hashed out. And then other things that are, maybe migrating the database. That's something that doesn't require such a tight cadence, and so you could afford to have the day back and forth communication. So Adam, we'll kind of wrap it up with what do you think will be the biggest change in work from home? Like if you were to look back 5 years from now and say, assuming you're still working from home for the next 5 years, what do you think would have changed the most?
That's a good question. When I very first started working from home, like probably for the first couple months, we did like our daily stand up on a conference call. Like I phoned into it. Um, and now
Yeah.
obviously and then quickly moved to Skype and so on. But so I think like with more and more people doing it, like whatever communication mediums are probably going to get richer. So I don't know what's beyond like our current video, maybe just lower latency or easy. I don't really know, but I feel like communications is the hard part of working distributed. So something to do with communication.
Yeah, that makes sense. Patrick, what about you? Predictions for the work from home future. The work from the future home. WFFH.
I feel like we've notoriously been not great at predicting the future on this.
Yeah. Yeah, look at all the Bitcoin we didn't buy.
And Bigelow spacecraft. Oh man, I still remember that. The inflatable hotel in the space. Let's not talk about them. So yeah, I mean, I think the normalization of work from home is sort of a given. I think we've been talking mostly about software engineering, but I mean, I think a lot of people are going to realize that a lot of work can be done from home. And if it means getting smaller offices for some types of businesses, I think that's going to be a pretty big win. If that cost of capital, wherever they are, is pretty expensive. The fact that we have to develop these tools and experiences now is going to have a trickle down effect to a lot of other more niche businesses that can take advantage of it. So I think that's an interesting trend to watch. Like, just even thinking, I'm trying to think of like a crazy example, but like management at Walmart, they would not necessarily have been able to do remote work before, but now like maybe they can, video conference into multiple stores, TV panels, and, sort of rally the troops beforehand because this video conferencing stuff has become cheap and better. So I think having video conferencing pop up in more places like that would be interesting. I also think there's going to be interesting changes in when people go to a doctor's office or hospital and getting triaging. I think that's another outcome of this, but not necessarily exactly related to what you're saying. And I think the final trend, I guess, would be the desire of people to say, I have to have a dedicated office space where I live. So somewhere where I can put a desk and do this sometimes, I think will become a factor in where people choose to live.
What do you think about WeWork? Do you think that WeWork will take over in the sense that everyone right now who's working from home, could go to some local place, like kind of like an Amazon locker, but for your office desk, right? Like you would just go to some place close to you, but you'd still be working for a company that's far away.
I mean, WeWork specifically has a whole bunch of problems with it, I guess. But
WeWork, oh my gosh, WeWork's a disaster. But just the idea that there's just a desk you can rent, basically.
I think that would make sense because it's like
a real estate capital model for it to work. But yeah, I mean, I think the fact of having some place you could go like a library, but for doing video conferencing and a little bit of office work, I think there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah. It'd be kind of interesting. I mean, it would separate your social clique from your work clique. Like you would go to the WeWork and you and the buddies who work at all your competitors would play ping pong together in the office breaks, right? I think my thing is I feel like everything will become collaborative. Like look at the VS Code. Have you seen the live code in VS Code? It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. It's awesome.
But I think correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, but I think it's a broadcast model. So I don't think other people can edit your code when you invite them. It's just they can just see what you're doing. And so I think the next step is where they could just write in your editor. And then you could just extrapolate that to everything. Like maybe Excel has a button. And when you press it, your coworker jumps into your spreadsheet and you're talking, and he can also just add equations to it, right? And so you can imagine every enterprise app being like that.
So VS Code is crazy good. So you can type in it. You can both type in it. You can be in separate windows.
Really? Oh, okay.
You can share your terminal so that the terminal window, like in VS Code, they can type in it. And like if you launch like a local host or something on port something, you can like hit a button and it'll port forward it to them. So like if you're doing web development, you can load their local website into your browser remotely.
So cool. Yeah, I mean, so I imagine just like modern enterprise apps being like that. I mean, especially Excel, which is probably the most popular enterprise app other than email, I guess. But yeah, that would be my prediction. Well, so Adam, why don't you tell us a little bit? We've talked so much about work from home. I think we've covered just about everything. Let me just check the chat now that I'm thinking about it to make sure we covered. It looks like we got everyone's questions. And yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about CoRecursive? So CoRecursive has, you said you've kind of updated the format a bit. And so what kind of inspired that, and what does it look like now?
Yeah, so yeah, CoRecursive is my podcast. It's kind of like an interview format. So the thing that I've changed is I've tried to I'm trying to kind of get people's stories, almost like case studies of building things, of like doing software development, and kind of present it in like a format that's interesting to listen to. So like I had a guy, Sean Allen, he came on and he explained how like he had to build this like high performance system where like every request had to be like within microseconds, and like what kind of technology choices that kind of drove. Like tried this, that wouldn't work, couldn't use JVM because the GC pause, can't keep it within a microsecond. I had like a Twitter engineer explaining how some of the big data problems that they had, and then how he found some way to use like ideas from abstract algebra to actually solve kind of like real-time data processing. And so I just released one today with Jim Blandy, who created Subversion, about like how he thought source control was broken, back in 1993, and decided to build something better. So yeah, that's kind of my format change, is to kind of embrace just like, I guess it's kind of the stories you might tell around the lunchroom, but I guess, with everybody being remote, maybe you don't hear these stories. So I'm trying to find, people who built interesting things, solved hard problems, and kind of have them tell their story. So that's I guess like, yeah, if somebody's listening and they have like a super interesting story of solving like a really hard problem, or, building something, and then it turns out that there was a much easier solution, reach out to me. Maybe we could have a show about your problem.
Cool. What was the most exciting episode so far since you've changed the format?
Oh, I mean, they're all exciting to me.
Yeah, but you have to pick a favorite. I'm kind of putting you on the spot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so the Sean Allen one that I was just describing, I thought was pretty interesting. So yeah, he worked on I think it's Apache Storm, which was like a real-time data processing thing.
Oh yeah.
And then basically like some Wall Street types approached him and said like, okay, we need something like that, but like this is high performance or high frequency trading, right? So we're in the microseconds.
Yeah.
And then so he kind of had to he kind of takes us through like the tech choices that he had to make, right? Like, should I use C++? I can't use this, I can't use that, and kind of how he got. So I think he ended up with a solution where, they're crunching numbers. Like I think he said like 80,000 calculations a second, and answering like hundreds of thousands of requests that are all under a microsecond. But how he got there is like,
wow,
it's like super unusual, I guess, his path.
Wow, it's totally wild. Yeah, the Subversion one really resonated. We've talked to a lot of programming language inventors, and one of the things that I noticed is, for many of us, like everyone who's worked in a language for a while sees some flaw. There's something they don't like, right? But most of us just deal with it, right? And even, there might be cases where you have sort of analysis paralysis, where you don't know what language to write in. And over time, I think, at least myself, like I've gotten more ambivalent to that, and more likely to just pick something and start working. But I think, to invent a programming language, you have to have the opposite mindset. Like you have to go into it saying, Python has this feature, I can't stand it. It's driving me crazy. I can't sleep at night. And so I'm going to spend 5,000 hours writing a new language and popularizing it to the whole world, because of that, right? And so it tends to attract like a certain type of person that has just incredible like depth and just amazing stories, and just like a very sort of like hard-nosed attitude to programming languages. And I find those people like super fascinating to talk to.
Yeah, Jim's story, like I'll give you just a tidbit. So Jim, like CVS was the main source control
Yep.
before Subversion. And he worked at this place. They had a giant CVS repository. And like if you want to create a branch in CVS, like it actually has to like make changes to every file to like create the branch. And
Yep.
CVS has no transactions. So like if somebody does a commit at the same time, like it's kind of like undefined what's going to happen. And the branch, like he was saying, it could take like 45 minutes, could take 2 hours to make the branch because it has to go through like hundreds of thousands of files.
Yep.
So he told the people there, he's like branching should be free. Like nothing's actually changing, right? Like if you imagine this as a database, like all we're doing is like making a pointer that says like this version here has this name. And they were like, yeah, sure, buddy. Like it's taken us hours. You say it should be free. Like, and they didn't believe him. But so he went off and solved that problem. I mean, I think it took him years, but
Yeah, that's amazing. Very cool. All right. So yeah, co-recursive. So people can Google it. We'll also put a link to it in the show notes. So people can check it out. And I'm assuming it's also on all the podcast engines like Stitcher and Google Podcasts and all of those good places.
yeah, search for co-recursive, or if that's hard to spell, you could just put like Adam Gordon Bell. That's my name. It should turn up the podcast as well.
Cool. Awesome. Have you tried Spotify? Are you on Spotify?
I think so. I assume, but I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah, all of a sudden we got a lot of requests to be on Spotify, and so we set it up relatively recently, and it's actually a pretty awesome experience. So yeah, I think anytime we interview a fellow podcaster, we always tell them to check it out. But they recently signed some exclusive deals with some really really big names in podcasts like Joe Rogan, I think, and someone else has an exclusive deal. And actually, I found the interface and the analytics and all of that pretty cool. So
I'll have to check it out.
yeah, cool. All right. So everyone, thanks for kind of checking it out, for supporting us on Patreon and all of that. Adam, thank you so much for being on the show. You have a wealth of information on work from home, and obviously super relevant to everybody. And I think it's going to continue to be relevant for most of us for a really long time. So I think this particular episode will have legs to it. I think it'll be relevant for many, many years. So unlike Rust, which we did a show on Rust like 0.1, and we're still getting emails about how none of it is relevant anymore and how I'll have to redo that. But I think work from home is something that will continue to resonate with people. And so thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you.
The intro music is Axo by Binar Pilot. Programming Throwdown is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Share-alike 2.0 license. You're free to share, copy, distribute, transmit the work, to remix and adapt the work, but you must provide attribution to Patrick and I, and share alike in kind.